Hello, everyone. Welcome to Finds, episode 3. How's it going, Amira?
It is going well. How are you, Connor?
Ooh, I'm jamming. I had a long weekend and tried to fit in a lot of homework for this podcast.
Yeah, how'd that go?
Because, it went really well. The topic is sewing. And why did we choose sewing?
Because I sew a lot.
Nice. When did you pick up this hobby?
Okay, so I think the first time I ever tried to sew anything ever was probably in high school. I remember sewing a vest that was supposed to be for like some kind of Halloween costume, but like literally I tried it on to make sure that it was gonna fit, and by the time I sewed it, like my boobs did not fit in it because it's high school and puberty happens. And I
Right.
was awful. But I made like a jacket that had some really tacky purple stars all over it, and then I just like dropped sewing all together. But then I picked it up again like a year or two ago and tried to be like semi-serious about it. But most of the things that I've completed are loungewear, so it's very rare that people have like witnessed my makes.
I've seen your overalls.
Yes, I made some overalls. They were well received on the gram. I wore them to see Beyonce. But yeah, I have like a jacket or two or something like that also like kicking around.
So, like, does craftiness run in your family? Because your dad's crafty.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Plug my dad right now. His Instagram's highly for him. And he is that solid dad content. He's like as if, you just have a dad like doing a voiceover for HGTV. And so it's just like not stylish at all, but he's like trying his darndest.
Oh,
So
I love it. I think I saw him like brewing beer once. It was
yeah,
just
he's really into beer right now, which is hilarious because it is pretty alcoholic, and that is like not what he's going for, but it is. And he also like made his own like neighborhood lending library. The take one leave one
yeah.
kinds. That's like sitting in front. Oh my goodness, we have a guest star.
Oh, a cat coming across the screen.
Oh, big buddy. He has gotten into doing that lately. Um, but yeah, so he makes a lot of stuff. There was like at least one time when I was over at home over break where me and my sister looked around a room. It was my sister's room. And we're like, okay, literally anything that isn't the walls or the floor or the ceiling, my dad made. Like including the bookcase that was like set into the wall. And we're just like the match, like the mattress aside, but like the entire bed, like dressers, all of it. So even though my dad never actually like sat me down and taught me stuff, like it's just in the blood.
Yeah. Because, like, in for our audience, knowing Amira is just surprising. Because usually, like, every once in a while, I'll look at your Instagram, you're like, made bread. You made bread this weekend.
Yeah, that
A
took like
beautiful
5
loaf.
days. It's such a process.
For
Yeah.
sewing, like,
Yeah.
I think what's cool is that for you were featured on like a sewing Instagram like magazine.
Yeah, it's actually one of my favorite pattern makers who I'll probably be sharing today. Yeah, because like they'll do nice things where they'll like show, they'll like redo highlights and like repost people who have like made their makes, because it's like really helpful as someone who's trying to make clothes that you're literally the only reference you have is what it looks like on paper. Like I want to see what this looks like on someone's body type. It's really helpful to see what it's done. So like part of their promotion is just like reposting people who have made their make so that you can also say, oh, so someone's really tall or they maybe have this kind of waist, and like you can figure out like how it's going to look on you, and also like what fabrics, right? Because like fabric also like makes a point in like how it's going to lay on your body and all of that. So it's really nice to have like a community of people posting stuff, because then it just gives you more reference points.
Nice. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I want to hear more about this. So I have no interest in sewing really.
Like, okay, so like what happens like when like you lose a button on your favorite cardigan, or like there's a tear in your shirt?
Yes, this is exactly what I figured out. So here's what happened. Last week we agreed that like we're going to talk about sewing communities on the internet, right? So what I did first
Mm-hmm.
was went to YouTube and typed in sewing and
Okay.
and just went straight for that. And there was a whole page. I clicked like uh, this one. It's sewing projects to make in under 10 minutes. I'm gonna
Like
figure
whole
out who
project?
made this. I guess I should pull up my screen, right?
Yeah, do it.
All right, here we go. I also have to say this is the best way to do this podcast. It's so easy.
Just sharing it.
Cool, you seeing it?
Yeah.
So, Rosary Apparel, this was on, like, the first thing that came up. And, like, it's pretty well done. 8 minutes long, not too long. But this gal just kind of explains what to do with scrap fabrics.
Okay, and that's really nice. Reusable, like, is definitely a movement in the sewing community.
Yeah, and so this was super accessible. This was like the first thing that came up, and I honestly, I popped it open, and I was sitting and I was watching this, and I was like, I can't sit and watch. I need to be doing something with this on. So I started doing dishes, and I had it on, and I was like, this is interesting. I'm okay with it. So then the next thing that I found was this. This was also on the first YouTube page of sewing. It was this dude. Can you hear any of this?
No, I can't.
Okay.
But like,
So
what an image.
totally different vibe. The thing that blew my mind, like he has a monster sticker on his sewing machine.
Yeah. Oh man.
And immediately I was like, okay, why do, like, just on a very basic level, I was like, this is accessible to me.
Yeah. Oh man.
Like I'm more of the target audience. So I actually, like, I still had to do other stuff, but I played this from beginning to end because I was like, okay, I feel like I'm in good company here.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I am
So
so curious.
what's that?
I'm so curious about that man.
Yeah, I like, the problem was, like, I had it on and it was kind of watching, but it still wasn't interesting to me.
Okay. Yeah.
And so the game that I had to play with myself was like, how can I get into sewing? What's cool?
Okay. Yeah.
And before I get there, there is a handful of sewing YouTube that I know just because my girlfriend watches it.
Yes.
Cheyenne consumes a lot of like solid YouTube, and occasionally it's like DIY and sewing stuff. So there are 3 that I know of that I'm sure you know of as well. First and foremost, Bernadette Banner. I still have this sharing. Bernadette Banner. There was a DIY video that Joanna Sedita did.
Huh, I don't know if I know them.
Yeah, Joanna Sedita, she doesn't do sewing exclusively. She's just a vlogger, but one of her videos, it's called I DIY'd Emma Chamberlain's new clothing line, and it's kind of satire.
Ooh, okay.
So it's more vlog, and I liked watching that because it was funny. And then this other woman, let me pull this up on my screen. Karolina Zebrowski. This woman, and what she does is historical clothing.
Yeah, she's vaguely familiar. I feel like I might have like the algos might have served me up after like a Bernadette Banner binge, but yes.
Yeah.
I'm here for the education.
She does, I think she like studies for fun, like historical fashion, and also does reproductions. There's a very phenomenal video in which, in period dress, she recreates iconic vines.
Oh, okay.
I like
That's
it.
so fun.
Anyway, that's what I know through Cheyenne. And so in trying to think about what I would be into, I was like, mending is so cool.
Yeah.
And the most practical thing. And I found like a handful of cool, interesting like YouTube videos. They're basically how it's made of people mending things.
Yeah. Okay. Honestly, like I've always seen like a darning egg, like, and I know it's made to mend a sock, and I've like seen them in the stores, but I could like never figure like why would you need that to like buy that? Because I feel like half the time when you're shopping in a craft store, it's like how much of this do I actually need, and how much of this is like BS that was made just so that I would spend money on art supplies and things can be expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So that got me to YouTube to be like, what does it like darning egg look like, and what do you use it for? And it was fascinating because now it's like old timey sock hemming, like yeah, real cool. I don't know. So it's just like even if it's just for like the entertainment value.
Oh yeah, I think the thing that I was most just this is again like this is just me being basic, I guess, is I was super into like looking at like Boro shit,
Yeah. And
like repaired denim. I found a subreddit called Visible Mending where people do tricked out mending, which is
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, and it's actually a Japanese technique, and good Lord, I forgot how you pronounce the name, but I know the word, the shape of the word. There's a lot of S's and H's in it.
Sashiko.
Yes, yes, yes. And it's like such a wave right now. I feel like that and like weaving, you could find like classes for in like almost any local craft store.
So if you were to introduce me to your world, how would you do it?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess that really depends on like what you're trying to do, right? Because I feel like there are like communities serve different purposes, right? And so I
I
could
want
just
to know what your life is like in the sewing community.
yeah, what my little resources are.
Yes.
Sure. So let me share my screen, and I'm just gonna like go down the list of like my faves, and we'll see how it goes. All right. So let's actually start over here with Miss with Wendy. So okay, I feel like she might hit your category of like entertaining but still somewhat practical.
Yeah, this already looks great.
Yeah, because like she falls into the category of like the person who's watching this probably isn't going to use the video to like reference how to make something themselves. It's more of like a what if I did want to make a sleeping bag into a jacket? Like, how would that even possibly work? So it's not like I'm going to her vlog to be like, let me write down the pattern and get the exact measurements. It's more of like, what kind of work goes into that? What did you have to consider? And it's like pretty cool.
Yeah, that's like Mythbusters. It's just trying things out.
Yeah, exactly. And so she does like thrift flips. She does like, she copies runway looks. She does challenges. She does like guest starring with other influencers.
This looks like a great time.
Yeah. I think she's like one of the more like quality of the like thrift flip vlogs, because I feel like the thrift flip ones, it could easily become like, I don't know if you've like seen those on Instagram where it's just like short compilation of gifts where it's like, here's some hacks, and you're like, that's interesting, that was a good way to do that solution for that problem, but it's probably not like something that's actually going to last more than 5 minutes.
What's a thrift flip?
Ooh, okay, so thrift flip is when you go thrifting and then you buy stuff with the promise that you're going to make it look better once you own it, which is often an empty promise.
So you buy it and then you alter it so it's dope.
Yeah, exactly. And so the idea is like, great. So for example, here, like she really liked this runway look on the side. I'm afraid to click it because I don't want it to like auto start.
Yeah, fair.
But she ended up buying like this quilted blanket and like made the same look from that, right? And that's something you could like buy at Goodwill or like buy from IKEA or something. And so the idea with thrift flips is that you're like turning like, a big gown into like a cute little party dress or something. But it's part of the whole like recycle movement, because I feel like a lot of the sewing community is against like fast fashion and is trying to go back to these ideas of making quality clothes that will last you a really long time. They're splattering, they're not like, they're like somewhat timeless, but they're more like classic pieces. So you can just like own them for forever. And so thrifting is just kind of part of that movement, and like, why buy new fabric when like almost everything is fabric and you can just recycle? I mean, think like Project Runway, like non-fabric challenge.
That's super cool. Like,
yeah.
Honestly, that sounds like something I would want to be down for if I had the time to sew.
Yeah, sewing, I'm not gonna lie to you, sewing is definitely a time and money intensive hobby. There's definitely ways to cut corners, but it's about the process. It's about the like making of something. It's not always just the end result. Which, speaking of the process, like you were mentioning earlier, Bernadette Banner is
Bernadette Banner
she's amazing. She's so amazing.
blows my mind.
Yeah, so because she like does historical sewing and it's like accurate to the time period more or less. And if it's not, she like calls that out and like she does these like great educational hour-long sessions where she's like telling you, for example, like how her handmade piece that is like up to like the times of the era, like totally is like incorrect with like or incompatible with like this other like Halloween costume that someone's bought, right? Or she'll like tell you like how Victorian corsets actually weren't suffocating women, like, and she honestly, I think she has like scoliosis and she actually wore a corset a lot growing up, which kind of sparked this interest.
So from like these two channels already, I've had experience with Bernadette Banner and also with Wendy Looks Great. A lot of this seems to just be also quality YouTube.
Yeah, that's true. Because I feel like when it comes to sewing, like at like almost any other craft, you're gonna have like the technical videos that will teach you how to do a slip stitch, like how to sew a zipper in, which will be very scientific. But then you have these other like resources that are mostly like how to like dream about and like fantasize about like the things you want to make, right? Because I feel like it's not just trying to be a designer. Like I'm not trying to be a designer when I sew clothes. It's more of like I want to sew something that fits and that like is like in a style that fits like the rest of the stuff in my wardrobe, right? And so half of that experience is the actual like sewing bits and like going to the store and trying to figure out stuff. And like these like gals here are like taking you on that journey with them, and they'll like show you when they're shopping for ribbon at the store and all of that. And so it's like just nice inspo, and also kind of sets the mood because like sewing is a long time and you're probably alone when you do it. So it's just nice to put on a little YouTube of someone else sewing and then you're sewing together.
Right, yeah. That's what I like. My question, like, what makes a bad sewing video? Because I found one.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know like the differences in what we think a bad sewing video is.
Like, I don't want, like, it was just, with these, they're very pleasant to watch. And
Yep.
there are some sewing where it's like people, like, maybe doing the same things or speaking the same things, but the audio is bad. And also just like they set up a tripod and they're kind of like thinking about it too much. You know,
Yeah.
it's,
I feel like the things that would be bad about a sewing video are usually what's bad about a YouTube video in general, right? Where
yeah.
it's like when you talk for too long about something that doesn't make a ton of sense, or like I'm not a huge fan of like the time lapses where it's just kind of like I didn't edit this video at all. I just kind of sped up the parts that were boring. And I'm like, well, okay, well then we didn't need to see all of that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's like shot from far away. Like I think that the videos that are like the best, in my opinion, are when the person that is behind it is super excited about what they're making. They're kind of like passionate in that like process and end result. And also are kind of like explaining enough along the way where it's like if like they're doing a cool technique or they're doing something interesting, they show that off and not just like gloss over it. But you know, the amount that you do that is definitely dependent on what your channel's going for.
Nice. Cool. Well, I love this. What else do you have for me?
Yeah. Okay. So those are definitely like inspo, aesthetic, like set the mood type of content, right?
Mm-hmm.
Moving on, are to more the brands. And so I feel like when it comes to sewing, you're gonna have like two major, like I guess three major kind of brands. You're gonna have like the fabric, you have patterns, which both can be indie, and then you're gonna have like more of like tools and things, which those are gonna be more like, you know, established businesses and whatnot. So I don't tend to follow established businesses. I like to follow like the indie companies. So my favorite fabric company is Blackbird Fabrics. They're based in Canada, but they ship pretty much worldwide, I think. But they're just gorgeous. They have like great choice in fabrics. Everything is really relatable. My favorite thing that they do is that they post multiple photos of their fabrics in really great lighting. And they'll also tend to show you photos like these where it shows you how the fabric drapes. And like photos like this that show you how it folds, because that gives you an idea of like how thick the fabric is. yeah, what's going to, because like you don't get that in person touching. So you need as much like visual information as you can get. But then they even go the extra mile and they like will link you to Pinterest boards of patterns that would be best fitted for that fabric type. And
That's
so it's like,
really cool. That's so
yeah,
helpful.
so helpful because it just kind of encourages you to make that online purchase since they don't even have a storefront in Canada. They're just like a warehouse.
See, that's rad because I think that's the trick is that you have to create the store experience online.
Yeah.
And everyone talks about this. They're like, we want people to feel like they walked into our store when they go into the website. And this kind of does it really well and tastefully.
Yeah, and it's super great because like they're kind of late on this, but a lot of companies also like fabric companies will also like provide like bra kits or like bag kits where it includes like all the hardware and all the little knickknacks that you need to finish an entire like project that you'd have to like go and shop for at a bunch of different stores. So it's just kind of like cool, like we know this really popular pattern. This is just the right amount of yardage and just the like different like things that you need in order to like get that done like the minute you get it in the mail. So
excellent.
Yeah, they're super great. And they like just like set this really cool vibe of just like, everything's like fun and go and it's like super exciting and blah, blah, blah. But who's also on this train are like the indie patterns. And so this is Closet Case Patterns, who I was actually talking about earlier is one of my favorite patterns. They're also based in Canada. I don't know why Canada is so big for sewing. But
like what I've heard, and this is like a generalization, is that like Canadians are kind of craft oriented and proud about it.
I would believe that for like no good reason, but I believe
like
that.
I worked a fashion job, as you know,
Mm-hmm.
and we would get stuff from Canada often, and my boss loved it. He was like, this is what he would say. He's like, the thing about the Canadians is that they take pride in their work. And he would show me the clothes and he was like, look at this.
Yeah, I mean, it makes, it's just like things last longer. They live in hard weather. I don't know. At this point, I'm just making things up.
Who knows?
Who
knows?
Yeah.
We'll get a Canadian to weigh in.
At some point, guest star. But yeah, they have like the cute, I don't know, I just really like their pattern style. And so when it comes to like indie patterns, you're definitely paying more. So patterns will be maybe around like $14 to $17 at an indie pattern company, whereas if you went to like McCall's, it would be like $3 to $5.
Right.
So you're paying for the craftsmanship, you're paying for the little details that they do. And they also do they tend to do a lot of blog content. They do sew-alongs, meaning that they'll like do blog posts that chunk together bits of the pattern. So like they'll start you from the beginning, from like selecting the fabric to figuring out the fit to, okay, now step 1 through 5, this is how you do everything. This is what it should look like at this point, with pictures, sometimes videos. So I don't know, I like to invest in like the indie groups because they like also listen to the community. There's been like recent revolts where people are like, you know what, you're not super size inclusive. And that's like to most companies. And so now they're like either releasing sizes, like extended sizes with every new pattern, or going back to their old patterns and like releasing new extended sizes for them. And another thing was with a lot of patterns had the word kimono in the name, and so people were just like bringing out that like actually kimono is like a really culturally tied garment, and like what you created here is not that. And so a lot of companies went through and did like a whole renaming, which isn't like a simple feat for them. I mean, because the way that you track your like the makes that you do and create the community on Instagram is usually there's a hashtag that goes with the brand and the brand's pattern name, and I'll do a combo of that, and then that will show you other people on Instagram who have made that, right? So then the same thing with like trying to figure out body types and what fabrics look like on that pattern. They're like losing those like hashtags, right? And they have to like start fresh with new ones. So it's not like a flip of a switch and everything is fine and easy for them. They're taking a hit, but it's like, as an indie brand, I feel like it's really important that they are listening to community, and it's going to pay tenfold because people are loyal as heck. And also, I don't know, it's just great. It's great when you can build it around.
Yeah, I think that's maybe the benefit of these indie folks and running small business is that I think they may be more in tune and more open to listening. Whereas when I think of a big corporate entity that sells products, they're like, they're looking to make money, and they're more distanced from the consumer.
Right, because they can like afford that distance. They've created that distance by being that big, right? So it's kind of nice to have this like balance of like, you need us, but also like, we want this of you, kind of a thing. Um,
Nice.
but
What
yes,
else?
that's brands. They're like fun to engage with, and they don't feel super corporate. And then there goes like, influencers, which I can go through these guys pretty fast, but I love them to bits. Mia is Sue North. She actually just recently published her blog, and she actually just released her first pattern. But this is just like a regular gal like you or me, just who decided to sew in her free time, and now she's got a blog and a pattern, and it's like crazy the kind of like I don't know, the community has totally just like loved her, and she's like sews these great jeans. They're so well fitting. She's got this ridiculous like hip to waist ratio, so she's always modifying and altering stuff, and always gives pretty good hacks. But yeah, she even got her husband into sewing, and she's like so proud of him. It's adorable. Half her stories are like, oh my God, look, he did everything except the buttons for this, or something like that,
That's so cute.
Yeah, but like this is and this is kind of the content that people share. It's just like the really nice details of like, the top stitching here, and how much work like someone will go into that, and like, I don't know. And it's just like part of their lives. You get to know them. Same thing with every other influencer. But I really like her because she's really creative with like extending patterns and doing really great hacks. And then, oh my goodness, she's shown how to pronounce her name a million times, and I always forget. But I think it's, ooh, dare I even? I don't dare. But she's a great.
The respect there. I was like,
I mean, I'm just like so grateful right now that y'all can like see it on the screen. But if anyone's just listening, the handle is ABOLAJIOOO. Okay.
yeah. And what I'm gonna do for all of this once we like finish is we're gonna have a directory of all the things.
Yes, nice.
Yeah,
All the finds.
yeah, so y'all can look at what we looked at.
Yeah, great collection. Oh God. Okay, so this woman is amazing because she's so creative and she's so consistent with her makes. Like, she's always producing something, but she also just has like a really strong sense of style. And I feel like that's what a lot of like sewists like struggle with, is like how to figure out, it's like, okay, if I can now like make whatever it is I want, then like, what is it that I want? I don't know what my signature look
Right.
is.
They can make patterns, but they don't have like a fashion sense.
Right, exactly. And it's like, how am I gonna, like, I'm gonna spend so much money and time making this thing that I might end up hating? Like, that sounds like it sucks. So I don't know, I follow her more for inspiration of like how to stay true to yourself. And like, for example, I'm pretty sure this sweater that she knit was from a cardigan that she had also knit, and she decided that she was no longer into it, so she totally unraveled it and then made a new sweater. Like, it's just that kind of stuff.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And just like these amazing hacks on these, like, for example, this jacket, she made it out of quilted fabric and like did a bunch of alterations, but it's like this jacket that I have myself that I've made, and it's just insane to me, the kind of like things that you build up on with just like a little bit of creativity.
It is worth mentioning that she's so cool.
Yeah, and she's like a nurse or something. So it's not like she has like all the free time in the world, but like somehow prioritizes this. Also, oh my goodness, it was just so humbling. One time she showed where she sews, and it's literally just a desk, like just a desk. And I was like, wow, I have like almost twice the space you do, and I've done not even a third. Not even a third. Like, so yeah. So I feel like most of these people are just like inspiration and motivators. But speaking of like the most motivating, there's definitely moms in the crafting community. And like, I feel like honestly, there's just such a generation gap where it's like, either you're like a more mature woman and you have an entire family that's totally established, or you're like me, who's just kind of like, I have disposable income and I might as well spend it on a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there's like not anything really in the middle. But I feel like the moms in this like Instagram world are still super relatable. Like, she's definitely a mom.
Yeah.
Where she's like showing her kids all the time and is like asking things through the stories, and like likes to do a lot of like, talking with her followers. She doesn't just like let you lurk there. but she's so inspiring. Like she has like these really real moments where she'll like show you how she looks in like an outfit, and she's like, this does not fit the way that I wanted, and I forgot how my body has changed, and like these are like, oh yeah, so here's her top 9 from the last year, and 2 of them include like her being very real about like, this is what I could look like in an Instagram photo if I'm posing, and this is what I don't, and she's showing a swimsuit pattern in that post, so it's like super relevant. And especially in the sewing community, like you have to take measurements all the time because your measurements always change, and they're going to line up to these numbers that are way bigger than the ones that they show on the store rack. So it's definitely, I think, part of sewing clothes for yourself is definitely like a way for you to get in tune with your body and just like kind of like love the shape that you're in, because there's just so many things that you'll learn about your figure that is literally your skeletons. Like your shape has nothing to do with how fat you are. It's really just how you're built and how your body is built, and just knowing whether you have broad shoulders and a tiny waist or what have you just makes it like so much easier for you to like just, I don't know, when it comes to like the science of having to make like clothes and make it fit, it just stops being like something that's like, oh, this is desirable, this is not desirable. It's like,
right, you're like, this is the literal dimensions of my body.
Right, exactly. And like, it's just going to go in or out a couple of inches depending on the day. So
yeah,
it's definitely an interesting thing. And so, you know, I feel like there's all these like journeys that are happening, and you can find those different journeys on like in the different online communities. So it's just a matter of like following what you're looking for, whether it's like someone who's starting out from scratch and doesn't know where to find their resources. Like there's going to be someone who's like documenting that journey. There's going to be someone who's documenting a journey where they're trying to figure out what their style is and what it's not. So I feel like it's all out there for everybody. And if not, you could totally be the next person. So
yeah. This is super rad. I have a question for you. So like, is there anyone off the, like, from what you know about me, is there any bridge for me to get into this? Like, are there any vlogs or influencers that produce, like, maybe do alterations or shit? Or is that my burden to find that?
I mean, so I don't follow anybody who does like alterations specifically. I feel like the closest thing, like content wise, I would be able to find for that are more thrift flippers. And at that point, it's just a matter of like, whose style do you like the best? Because then they'll start to make like turn clothes into things you like. When it comes to like alterations, I feel like that's just like such like a handyman kind of problem, right? It's like, oh, I have a hole in my wall. How do I patch it up? Like that, like I can just like Google for that and like find that specific like need.
Right.
But thinking about you, Connor, it was actually like earlier when you were mentioning stuff, I thought about this one woman whose handle I cannot remember for the life of me, but I will drop it in our notes so that it can end up on your list. But she is super great because she's actually like a cosplayer that likes to just wear vintage. So think of her as like Bernadette Banner's kind of cousin in like the content world, where she's never trying to super make things historically accurate. She's not going to bend over backwards. She'll do more of a mix it with like modern stuff. But like half of her time is spent doing vintage hair, vintage clothing, and the other half of her time is like cosplaying. So this woman made like an entire muscle suit out of like, she made like a bodysuit and then put like fake foam muscles on top of it so that she could then sew herself a Spider-Man suit and then put the suit on top of that so she could have an like actual masculine figure when she went and did cosplay.
Yeah, that's like engineering at that point.
Yeah, well, and it's really fun because like this woman doesn't actually know how to sew. Like she's like the kind of sewist where she just kind of like, so I'm assuming you cut a front and a back and you just sew together, right? That's what I'm gonna do. And like she just like goes through it, and it's so hilarious because like every time she gets super frustrated and it's just like, this isn't gonna work, and then she makes it and she's like, it's fine, it's like not perfect, but it's fine, and then she'll do that like 10 times over. But
this like brings into focus like how many different mini communities, because the sewing communities that I saw, like when I think of sewing communities, I just think, you know, like dainty girly things.
Yeah.
And I totally forgot there's such a huge cosplay community.
Yeah, like if you typed in like how to make horns for Maleficent, you'd come up with at least 10 different, not videos, but like methods, and then like 10 different people making the same method. Like it's
That's
kind
incredible.
of yeah, especially when you get into the like makeup community and cosplay community. that intersection is wild because makeup's already crazy. But
That's a topic for another day.
for another day. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of these. We hit everything that you had.
Yeah, that was all me. That's
Great.
all I had.
Yeah, I think that's our time. I am inspired. I want to watch thrift flip videos.
They're really, oh gosh, they're really inspiring, but I'm such a bad thrifter, so.
So would you ever, are you making like sewing content or are you just doing it in secret?
No, I'm not making any sewing content right now. I'm actually focused, since I just moved into a new apartment, I've been focusing on more like home decor, been watching a lot of the Sorry Girls and like room reno type stuff. But yeah, different craft space at the moment.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing with all of us.
Yeah.
And I'm going to start fixing some of my shirts.
Good luck to you, Connor.
Thank you so much. All right. See y'all next week.
Bye.